So when you talk about star players who could change teams this offseason, I think you have to start with LeBron James. Number one, because there's been a lot of rumors, but also the team around him just really isn't the best, and it's the worst team that he's had for a while now, because there really is not another top 10 player, I would say. In the past, it was Kyrie Irving. Before that, it was Dwayne Wade. I mean, the best teammate he has right now is Kevin Love, and I mean, sure, Love, he's okay. Good offensive player and rebounder, but definitely a drop-off from some of the guys that LeBron has had in the past, right? And given that James is having one of his best offensive seasons and probably his best passing season, it's fair to say that he's not going to slow down. And, I mean, the rumors have been out there for the Lakers. Magic Johnson hasn't exactly made it a secret that his plan is to go for two big-name guys this offseason, and they have cleared enough cap space to where once they buy out Luol Deng, they will have enough for two max contracts. There is some writing on the wall there, but there is also a movement on the internet, one that I have recently joined, that says LeBron could end up with Philadelphia, another team that has the cap space. He would be able to stay in the Eastern Conference, and Joel Embiid is better than anyone on the Lakers. However, when you're talking about Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons, it could be kind of an awkward fit because of the lack of shooting around him. We'll have to see what happens. Next, we can talk about Paul George, another guy who's been littered with rumors of going to the Lakers. Newsflash, that's the team that I'm going to preview here. But I don't know, you got to look at OKC, look at their situation, and think, what would it take for George to decide to stay? It would probably have to be a Western Conference Finals appearance, right? And not getting just completely washed once you get there. I mean, depending on how injured the Warriors are, if OKC ends up playing them in round one, it is possible they could beat them. I do think people are going a little too crazy with how bad a Warriors team would be that still has Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, but still, health could definitely affect how that series would play out, and with how close everyone else is in the Western Conference, I mean, it's possible, but if there are any kind of shortcomings in the postseason, I think there's a decent chance that Paul George could end up joining LeBron James with the Lakers. I mean, look, it's pretty much out there at this point that LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade arranged themselves all signing with the Miami Heat a little bit ahead of time. Do we not think that there's an NBA Illuminati thing out there where LeBron and Paul George have a wink-wink situation to go to the Lakers? I think it's a possibility. And if you have the best player in the league and then somewhere between the 8th and 12th best player in the league, you're looking pretty damn good at that point. Next, I want to get to DeMarcus Cousins, who has perhaps the most unknown surrounding him of all the players here just because of his Achilles injury, right? It's a weird situation where the Pelicans probably don't want to give him just the 4 or 5 year max that he was going to get before this injury. They might want to give him a more conservative contract of 2 years and a team option or something. I'm sure his agent would not be a fan of that. And then it becomes a matter of, well, what are other teams willing to offer him? I mean, is someone else willing to take more of a risk than the Pelicans are to get a guy who is an offensive force, you know, from the three-point line, from the basket, and all that? I mean, an example of here could be Wesley Matthews, not as good of a player as Cousins, of course, but had the same injury. Dallas threw a whole lot of money at him that Portland was not willing to do, and I mean, they've been kind of paying for that one ever since. So, who knows? I mean, my gut feeling is I do think Cousins will end up back on the Pelicans because they really have no other way of acquiring a big-time player if they don't re-sign him just because of how little cap space they would have. So, there's that. But again, you know, if someone else throws a really generous offer at him and makes the Pelicans sweat, they might not be willing to risk it. Next, we want to get to Kemba Walker, and this one is not a free agency thing. This is a trade proposal, as Kemba recently became the all-time leading scorer for the Charlotte Hornets / Charlotte Bobcats. And he's, 27, 28 years old? I think one of the more underrated players in the league. One of the best ball handlers. His shooting has gone to a different level the past couple of seasons, and while the Hornets might not be the most exciting team on a night-to-night basis, if you just lock in on what Kemba's doing and the way he can beat defenders off the bounce, and if he gets hot, he can go for a few threes in a row, or he could have like a 15-point quarter. He's a pretty exciting player, and I think in a better situation, he could elevate himself to being one of the top 20 guys in the NBA, if he's not there already. And one potential trade, I think, is the Cleveland Cavaliers, which would probably cause LeBron to stay. And now there's a lot of what-ifs here, right? It depends on where Brooklyn finishes, because if they finish, or if they end up with like one of the top 3 picks, then that's probably too good to give up for Kemba. But if it ends up around number 6, number 7, I think that's more of a realistic thing. I have to imagine Charlotte would willingly take a top 10 pick for the guy, given that his contract is up after next season, and he's already said that he's tired of losing, and the Hornets are not very good. But then there's also the LeBron factor of Cleveland has to get a decent idea of what LeBron wants to do, because if he wants to stay, and if he's going to, then you make this move. If he's not going to, then you don't make the move, and there's always the push and pull of that dynamic. A lot of unknown with that trade, similar to the DeMarcus Cousins one, but it's a possibility. I do think if LeBron is good to stay and the Nets pick isn't too high, we could see a move where Kemba Walker ends up as LeBron's number 2 guy.